Joining us is Brad Aronson, author of the book, Humankind, Changing the World One Small Act at a Time. Brad, thank you. I am so thrilled that you're able to take time out to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Brad, tell us about how you decided to write this book.
So there were a couple inspirations for the book. The first was I was attending the high school graduation of a mentee of mine. And at this school, every single senior who was graduating had been accepted to college. And they're from areas of Philadelphia where most of them were not expected to graduate high school, let alone get accepted to college. And the commencement speaker, he said, "This is an amazing day. But unfortunately, we live in a world with a lot of negativity. So when you look at the news tomorrow, you won't see anything about Gerard's graduation." So of course, the next day, the first thing I do is I get online, I look at all the online news sources, then I get the newspaper, nothing about Gerard. And it was such a disappointment because people should know about these amazing stories that are going on. So I decided that if I wanted to see more good in the world, I should start writing about it. So I started blogging about good deeds and things that I saw that inspired me. So fast forward 6 months from that date, and my wife was diagnosed with leukemia. She is totally healthy and fine and done with treatment. At the time, obviously, like very disruptive, incredibly scary. You're going through life. You feel you're planning your future. You're thinking about things. My wife had a swollen lymph node. Went to the doctor, heard you have leukemia, you need to go to the hospital. If all goes well, you'll be let out in a month, and then you have 2.5 years of outpatient chemo, which is basically going to the hospital 4 or 5 days a week, many weeks to get treatment. And it's a tough process. And during this time, a few months in, the nurses suggested that we go to a conference for young cancer patients and their caregivers. Now, we're in the hospital almost every day. The last thing we wanted to do in our free time was go to a conference about cancer.
Right.
So we were like, we don't really want to go, but the nurses were amazing. Anyone who's been through treatment knows that the nurses, it's why you get through it. They're incredible human beings. And we thought if they suggested we go, we should go. So we went. And there was a speaker there. And she said, if you have 2.5 years of treatment ahead of you, you need a project. A project gives you a purpose, a focus, and a distraction for all the time you're in the hospital. So we had decided, okay, we should come up with a project. We were at home over dinner, and our son was 5 at the time. And he didn't know, we didn't fill him in on exactly what was going on, but he knew we were talking about projects. So everyone in the family came up with a project. And my project was to write this book. And I started off by writing about the small acts of kindness that transformed our lives during that period. So I had been a volunteer my whole life and had never been on the receiving end. And it's incredibly humbling. It's hard to ask for help. It's hard to accept help. And people just came out of the woodwork. People we knew well, people we barely knew, and saved us and got us through those 2.5 years. And I started writing about it. And it felt so good because I'm reliving those acts of kindness at a time when you could easily be thinking, and sometimes I did, why me? Like, what did I ever do that this is happening to us?
So how did the stories come in? Because there's so many incredibly, just amazing stories in this book. How did you cultivate them?
So after I wrote about our story, I decided I wanted to write other people's stories. So I went out and found people where one small act of kindness had a ripple effect. So there's a story where someone taught a 3rd grader how to tie his shoe. That one action reverberated, and that person went on to help thousands and thousands and thousands of kids. And it was because of that one lesson in shoe tying. And what's interesting is the people who did these small acts often had no idea of the ripple effect.
Right.
Like, I just taught someone to tie their shoe. Oh my goodness, it turned into this?
Not only do you tell great stories in here, But you also give advice to people on, some people are caught. Some people don't know what to do. They want to give, but they don't know how to or where to go. But you give advice, you give resources that are out there for people.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people want to be helpful, want to make a difference, but it seems overwhelming. You look in the news and you see what's happening in our country with COVID, with divisiveness, the amount of people facing homelessness, and you think, what can I do? And I tried to boil it down into easy ways we could have impact. All of us know someone who's going through a rough time. In interviewing people for this book, and I talked to hundreds of people, most of whom had been through very difficult times, they said what made the biggest difference was knowing that someone saw them, someone was thinking about them. And we could provide that just by writing a note. Hey, I was thinking of you.
How has your life been changed, Brad, from this book?
So, the goal was to share the power of small deeds and then to encourage other people to see this is so easy. And I get tons of emails from readers, which I really appreciate. And a bunch of the emails are people saying, I'm going through such a rough time. This book lifted me up and made me feel better. Thank you.
Where can people purchase the book? Where can they learn more about the book and you?
So you can purchase the book at your local bookstores. If you call them, they'll be able to order it. If it's not in stock, you can buy it at Amazon. You could buy it online at Target and Barnes & Noble, other stores. You can come to my website if you'd like to learn about me. It's Brad Aronson, ARONSON.com. And feel free to drop me a line.
And I always end every interview asking the same question, and that is, Brad Aronson, tell me something good.
Here's something good. I teach a class of young people through a nonprofit, and these young people have been through a lot of trauma. And at our last class, they were talking about their plans to give back to the community and how they wanted to help others. And I just love that energy. It made me feel great.
Well, that is wonderful. And thank you, Brad, for making thousands of people feel great through your book. And actually, we're going to give a copy of your book away. What we want people to do is like this post, comment on this post, and we'll pick a winner and let them know that they'll get the book. And we'll also put your information out there as well. So, Brad, thank you again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.